We'll be getting started promptly at 9:30 a.m. Central Time, which is approximately. Good morning and welcome to the Terry Talks Nutrition Educational Webinar Series. Today's topic, Build the Immune System, presented by Mr. Terry Lemerond. Let's get started. If you at any time experience difficulties with the audio portion of this presentation and you are listening via your computer speakers, know that you can also call in and listen to the audio portion of this webinar via the telephone. That telephone number is 877-668-4493. You'll be asked to enter this access code, and then you will be immediately connected to the audio portion of this webinar. This phone number and access code will be displayed at the bottom of each slide as we move through the presentation. So if you at any time decide that you are having difficulties with your computer audio, you may at that time switch to telephone audio and see if that does not help. Additionally, if you have any difficulties and are in need of technical support, then please call 866-569-3239. Now, we have a feature for individuals to communicate with our presenter, and it's called the Q&A box. So if you'll notice over here in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, you'll see a chat box and a Q&A box. If you do not see these boxes appearing, please note that there is an icon at the top called Chat. Just click on that and it makes these boxes appear. Now, a chat box is two-way communication. You can send a message to us and we can send a message to you. This is the perfect place for sending us messages about if you are having any kind of difficulties or technical difficulties, because then we can respond to you. The way you need to send a message to us is to type in the small box here at the bottom, press send, and it will appear up here in the chat. If you do ask us a specific technical question, please monitor the chat box. Don't close the chat box, because that's the only way we have of responding to you. Now, the Q&A box is one-way communication. This is where we like to keep our list of questions for our presenter today. So if you have a question of the presenter, if you are interested in something that he's speaking about, or if you'd like some further clarification, or if you have a personal question that you'd like to ask, this is the best place to keep them. So just type them into the Q&A, press send, and then the questions that everyone asks will be listed in the order in which they are received, and then when we get to the Q&A session of this presentation, we'll have a nice list to start with to answer everything on the list. Well, now it's my pleasure to introduce to you Mr. Terry Lemerond. He is a retailer, an author, an educator, and an entrepreneur. He has worked in the natural products industry for more than 40 years in various types of experiences in the natural product industry, from owning health food stores to being in product development to owning companies that create natural products. And he is one of the most respected figures in the dietary supplement industry. He has researched and developed over 400 nutritional and botanical formulations, and many of these continue to be top-selling products on the market today. If you would like more information, Terry Lemerond's personal website, dedicated to health and nutrition, and a lot of information and a lot of data that may be useful to you, is available at terrytalksnutrition.com. And so now it is with great pleasure I introduce to you Terry Lemerond. Good morning, Terry.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate Jennifer and Lexi and you, Cheryl, for assisting me in making this possible. I don't think I could do it alone, and you are really a very significant factor in making this presentation available to everyone who's listening. And greetings, everyone out there who have joined us for this presentation on how to build your immune system. And why do we want to build our immune system? Well, first of all, let's talk about a few things. I don't think you've ever seen your immune system. Well, we probably haven't seen many systems in our body. We have not seen many of our glands or organs. There are some glands and organs that we can actually feel, like, for example, our thyroid. We can feel the thyroid that's in our throat area. But we really can't see many of our glands and organs. But we know that they are there. We know by research and surgery. We know what the heart looks like. We know what the liver looks like. We know what the other glands, like the adrenal glands or other glands and organs in our body, the kidneys. but I don't think anybody has ever seen the immune system. And it's only been over the last several decades that they understand where the immune system might be. So for a fact, the immune system, 70 to 80% of it resides in our gut, G-U-T, gut. So it's in our intestinal tract. So what we put into our intestinal tract, what we put into it as food or garbage or beverages or water that has been purified or water that is tainted with chemicals or even fluorides or chlorine, all have an effect on our immune system. Dr. David Perlmutter, he's a medical doctor, a neurologist, who has written two very, very excellent books. One is called Grain Brain. The other is called Brain Maker. And he specializes in neurological diseases, brain diseases. But the brain has been found to be hardwired to our gut. So what happens in the gut has an effect on our brain. And he points out in many factors that, for example, what we eat, grain or gluten or other chemicals or other types of non-nutritious foods, that has an effect on our intestinal tract that changes the flora. The bacteria in our intestinal tract actually affects our brain function. Another really good book to read is called Breaking the Vicious Cycle by Elaine Gutschel, who found a way to eliminate colitis and Crohn's disease by eliminating certain foods because they had an effect on our immune system in our intestinal tract, and then found out that over time that people, when they eliminated grains and other types of foods, it also had a different effect on our brain function. That mental diseases, even as much as schizophrenia or bipolar, were affected by what we ate because it had effect on our immune system, which resides in our intestinal tract. Now, you've probably seen many advertisements on vaccines, particularly now the vaccines for shingles. Terry Bradshaw comes up on your doorstep, on your porch, and said, you know, he pounds on the door and somebody comes, oh, what a surprise to see you, Terry. Well, that's not the surprise. The surprise is shingles. So everybody should get a vaccine. Well, a vaccine isn't the answer. We have an immune system. What is the immune system for? Well, the immune system is to protect our body from foreign invasion, for eliminating bacteria, for viruses, for all those foreign agents that come into our body that are foreign to our body that has to be protected so it does not cause damage. So the immune system goes into effect. So your immune system is, you know, is it up to the job? Will it do what it's supposed to do? You know, we all have viruses in our body. The shingles, of course, is caused by the virus that caused chickenpox. So if you've had chickenpox, and as Terry Bradshaw points out in the advertisement, that there are 3 people sitting on the couch in front of him and said, well, 2 out of 3 will have shingles because 2 out of 3 is carrying the virus that caused the chickenpox, and everybody who's had chickenpox now probably are prone to have shingles. So you better get the vaccine. But it would be better to keep our bodies healthy and strengthen our immune system so it can do the job, and we won't have to have the vaccine, which is another drug for our bodies to contend with. All drugs, all vaccines are toxic and poisonous, and that's not the answer. The answer are not drugs. The answer is to maintain a healthy environment in our body by the right foods, the right bacteria, and a number of compounds which we'll talk about today. So we really need to build the immune system. So why do we have a weak immune system? This is a very interesting subject, and it comes really down to the bottom line is sugar. Sugar has so many negative effects on our healthy body that eventually it becomes unhealthy. In the early 1900s, we consumed 4 to 8 pounds of sugar per individual per year. And now it is approaching over 150 to 200 pounds of sugar per year per individual. we are consuming 70% of the American diet in carbohydrates, particularly refined carbohydrates, white flour, white sugar. 70% of the American diet is white flour and white sugar. Both are totally non-nutritious. No vitamins, no nutrients, but tons of calories and unhealthy calories. Here's one of the worst. Fructose. It was not even known in the early 1900s. Fructose was not known. And high fructose corn syrup in processed foods is totally bad. Natural sugar, which we find in fruits, and that is fructose too. That is good. It's found in fruits and vegetables, but it's in a very small quantity, and it is also locked into the fruits and vegetables in a network of fiber. So it's released very slowly. But the high fructose corn syrup, which is made from corn, of course, is pure starch per pure sugar, fructose. Now, the consumption of high fructose corn syrup increased from less than a half a pound in just the 1970s to over 60 pounds per year in 1997. That's the last year we have statistics. And I know that was 18 years ago. And I know it's going to be close to 80 pounds or more. So we're consuming maybe 100 to 200 pounds of sugar, white sugar, maybe an 80 to 100 pounds of pure fructose corn syrup. You wonder why America is sick and why our kids have to be on drugs to be in school, why we have all the problems that we're having in America. The American diet has changed so drastically in the last 100 years, more so than in the previous 3 million years. So we are eating a diet that has totally changed and has totally changed our metabolic system. Fructose, it wrecks the immune system. Dr. David Perlmutter points out, in order to make our immune system healthy, number one is fructose. And here's an animal model. Rats receive plain water or water with fructose for 5 weeks, and then we're exposed to immune system challenge. That means like a virus. Our body has its own vaccine system, the immune system. We don't need vaccines. Now, I'm not saying you should not have a vaccine. You have to talk to your doctor. I am not a physician. I'm not a doctor. I don't hold any medical degrees. I am just trying to bring attention to the fact that we could have an immune system that would respond in kind to repel viruses and other types of foreign invasion. The virus is the control group. Fructose supplementation animals had higher levels of inflammatory compounds and were more likely to develop fever and were more likely to develop illnesses or illness symptoms. Mice that were genetically predisposed to breast cancer were fed either a starchy, heavy diet or a diet high in sugar. The researchers found that fructose specifically helped cancer cells spread further and faster. And at age 6 months, 30% of the mice with a starch diet had breast cancer tumors. I know, my heart goes out to those ladies who are at a high risk of breast cancer. And it has been in the family, maybe mother, grandmother, other siblings. And I know that we go out and we have breast cancer fundraising. But look, folks, we are responsible for our health. And the food we eat increases the risk or lowers the risk of all cancers, including breast cancer. And just by increasing our weight from the age 18 to 50, and at 50 in postmenopausal women, by gaining 1 or 2 sizes, let's say, for example, let's say our skirt size. We increase the skirt size by twice in a matter of 32 years. It increased the risk of breast cancer in women by 77%. at age 6 months, up to 58% of the mice with extra fructose had breast tumors. And why do I say it increases the skirt size? Because fructose is extremely fattening. Fats are not fattening. Fats are not bad. Fructose. You know, most people today, the American mentality today is to lower fats. Everything is no fat, low fat, skim, whatever it is. But we're on a low fat regime. But why is America fat? 75% of Americans are excessively overweight or obese. We have gained so much weight in the last several decades. So it isn't the fat that causes us to be fat. It's the sugar, the carbohydrates, and the fructose. And the more fructose they were fed, the bigger the tumors grew. And now the fructose organization, those who produce high fructose corn syrup, they have petitioned the FDA to no longer call it high fructose corn syrup because now it's they just want to call it corn sugar. Sounds so much more friendly. Remember, all those manufacturers out there are competing for your dollars. And they want to make everything look more friendly and more appetizing and more delicious. So they lace everything with sugar to make everything taste better. You could take almost the worst food in the world, and it's going to taste better laced with sugar over not having sugar. So here's the intestinal microflora, which is totally key to the immune function. So, but we destroy this flora. And I think the flora, I think supplementing to increase the bacteria in our intestinal tract is going to be a huge movement. We hear a lot about omega-3 fatty acids. And there are over 20,000 studies done on omega-3 fatty acids. We have just gotten into the infancy on supplementing with probiotics for increasing immune health. Beneficial bacteria in the intestines promotes immune activity throughout the body. It has an effect on every function of our body, and more particularly in the brain, as David Perlmutter has pointed out. Dr. Elaine Getchell had a daughter 7 years of age, and she was severely handicapped with colitis. They wanted to take out her intestinal tract or shorten it significantly. And her mother was uneducated, but said no. Started doing some research, went back to school, got a PhD, and wrote a brilliant book called Breaking the Vicious Cycle, and found that when we reduce the grains, because grains now you have to realize are tremendously genetically modified. They're not the grains that we ate 100 years ago. They've been changed to get a greater yield, a higher concentration of protein that we already cannot digest. So the bad bacteria feeds on this protein that we can't digest. And found out that when we have all this bad bacteria feeding on the fermentation that's in the gut, we have brain diseases. And now Dr. David Perlmutter has come out with the same conclusion. To fix the brain, you have to fix the gut. So research has shown that destroying beneficial bacteria in the colon increases the risk of influenza and other respiratory infections. Fructose damages the intestines. It is easily fermented by the bacteria in the gut, and that you're feeding the bad bacteria. It generates byproducts including gases, methane, hydrogen, leading to bloating and abdominal pain. If people have Crohn's disease or colitis, here's a little bit of a sidebar. Give up grains, because grains are fermenting because we cannot digest them. Grains have been genetically modified and engineered to resist pests. Actually, it's like having a pesticide gene in the grain to resist insects and pests. And we are eating a genetically modified based on increasing yield and protein. yield per acre, increased levels of protein that we already can't digest. So excess methane also disrupts digestion and increases constipation and abdominal pain. This could be immune information and also intestinal tract information, because those who have Crohn's disease or colitis, irritable bowel system, diarrhea, constipation, it's all based on the grains that we're eating and the fructose. Fructose damages the intestinal lining, increasing by 30% what we call leaky gut, leakage of the bacteria into the bloodstream. And when that bacteria circulates through our body, it causes all kinds of other unhealthy conditions. So to keep your immune system healthy and fighting shape, all right, cut out the sugar. Look at everything you buy, because there are probably, well, I don't think anything can be made that is packaged or canned or wrapped in some way that doesn't have sugar in it. The only way to really avoid sugar is to shop the perimeter of your grocery store. Walk in and go through the fruit and vegetable aisle, go into the dairy section, skip the yogurt that's got sugar in it and fruit in it. Have good milk, cow milk, goat milk, preferably raw if you can get it. Good butter, cottage cheese, whatever it might be. Meats, and it's very difficult to shop the interior of the grocery store or supermarket. That would help you avoid sugar. All the packaged goods have sugar. It makes everything taste better. It gives a better texture. It makes it weigh more. There's a lot of reasons why sugar is used. So cut out the sugar. You'll cut your grocery bill in half. Restore a healthy intestinal environment. Here's a good combination: Lactobacillus plantarum, rhamnosus, and bifidum bacteria. These three are very, very hardy. They survive the intestinal tract. They survive going through the stomach, where you have a high acidic content, which a low pH. So the acid will not destroy these. They'll get through into the intestinal tract. They'll increase the bacteria. You don't need a zillion forms of bacteria. You need a few good bacteria of a hardy strain, hardy species. They will survive. They'll even survive at room temperature. They do not have to be refrigerated, although most stores refrigerate them because most people feel that bacteria has to be refrigerated. Today, they make them very, very hardy. They have a good strength, so they're not easily destroyed. And they will grow tremendously. You don't need billions and billions and billions. I've seen some products come out today that are 200 billion. That's nonsense. You don't need that. It's the old story that if I pay you a penny a day for working for me and I double it every day, by the end of the month, you're going to be a millionaire, because it just keeps increasing in volume exponentially. So this is the same with bacteria. Bacteria will grow so fast if you don't do something to destroy it. And of course, what destroys it is fructose and gluten and city tap water, antibiotics. Why do I say city tap water? Well, city tap water contains bacteria, bad bacteria. So in order to make it safe for human consumption, they use chlorine. Chlorine kills the bacteria. Oh, then we drink the water, which has chlorine in it. So it kills the bacteria, and it kills all the bacteria. Chlorine is a poison, so it kills off all the bacteria in the gut. So don't forget your adrenal glands as well. Get rid of the compounds that destroy the bacteria and use a good bacteria supplement to increase the bacteria in the intestinal tract. But also remember the adrenal glands, because stress depletes the immune system. And adrenal glands plus key nutrients will build up the adrenal glands. So here's how to build up the immune system and also how to take care of bad bacteria without destroying the good bacteria. Cinnamon is a very, very powerful, like if you're looking at my slide presentation, I'll name them off very quickly. Cinnamon, thyme, ravensara, myrtle, bay leaf, clove, oregano oil. That would be a powerful combination as a natural antibiotic. Thyme has been proven to destroy 94 to 96% of all bacteria. These are plant oils. They're powerful inhibitors of all types of pathogens. They are multi-antimicrobial. So they kill bacteria, they kill viruses, they kill fungi. Salmonella, E. coli, staph, H. pylori, food poisoning, strep throat, urinary tract infections, cavities and gum disease, all the bacteria in our mouth. We have 600 billion bad bacteria in our mouth, 600 strains of bacteria in our mouth. And that bacteria, because we have dental problems, because we have cavities, because we have inflammation, some of that bacteria in our mouth can get into the bloodstream and circulate through the body and also destroy the immune system. So I actually like to take a capsule or soft gel of some of these plant oils and chew them after I have brushed my teeth and swish them around in my mouth, swish them between my teeth, destroy all the bad bacteria in our mouth. We have more bad bacteria in our mouth than we do have in our intestinal tract. What a thing to think about. Viruses, flu, hepatitis, Epstein-Barr, HIV, common cold, warts, and then candida. We can kill off all these with plant oils more effectively than antibiotics. And we know that antibiotics right now are becoming ineffective. We consume antibiotics every day through meat, chickens, dairy products, because they're laced with the antibiotics that have been used to raise cattle and chickens. They're to increase growth and faster growth. So they use antibiotics. The FDA now is trying to stop the overuse of, they didn't say stop the use, stop the overuse. So they're still using antibiotics in cattle and chickens and other animals that we eat in order to increase growth at a faster rate. So we're eating antibiotics. And when it comes time when we really need an antibiotic, it doesn't work anymore because all the bad bacteria, they want to survive. So they mutate and they become stronger and healthier against the antibiotics. And now some of the superbugs we cannot stop. Plant oils can stop pathogens as effectively as drugs. Absolutely. A combination of thyme and eucalyptus oils treated vaginal infections, both bacterial and fungal, as effectively as prescription antibiotics and antifungal medications. These oils are powerful, and because they have so many molecules, several hundred molecules, and they change by the environment of where they're growing, so the bad bacteria never build up a resistance to them. So they're always effective. Thyme oil is 30% more effective than a conventional antibiotic at killing off the pseudomonas bacteria, and increase the effectiveness of the antibiotics by 38% when used in combination. Thyme, pine, and tea tree oils showed greater effects against E. coli than antibiotics. So really, you want, but pine and thyme you can take internally. Some of these oils, plant oils, you should not use orally. You can buy special capsules and soft gels in health food stores that, through good research, have shown the right type of the plant oils to use, and at the ratio and the potencies and the dosages that are correct for plant oils, because they are very, very powerful. You don't have to overuse. It's not like vitamin C. You take 100 milligrams, then you might want to take 10,000 milligrams. That's okay, as long as you don't get diarrhea. But plant oils don't need to be taken in those quantities because they're very, very, very powerful. They're very effective. Plant oils increase the effectiveness of antibiotics. Combining plant essential oils with conventional antibiotics can reduce the required dosage of antibiotics and therefore also reduce the risk of adverse events. Essential oil from thyme combined with antibiotics included Cipro increase the drug's ability to stop hospital-acquired bacterial infections. By combining Cipro with oregano oil, the dosage of Cipro could be reduced up to 4 times with no loss of efficacy. Combining essential oil of clove with antibiotics reduced the amount of antibiotic required to kill the bacteria associated with gum disease by 50%. Look for some soft gels that have a combination like thyme, cinnamon, clove, oregano oil. Do you have a combination like that that's as effective as antibiotics or can be used with antibiotics? If your doctor definitely prescribed antibiotics and you and the doctor have agreed that this is the right dosage for you or the right prescription for you, you can always add the plant oil combinations because it makes it more effective. Antibiotic resistance is a huge problem. In fact, in 2012 survey, 36% of people responding believe that antibiotics are an effective treatment for viral infections such as the common cold. Antibiotics are useless in fighting viral infections. Taking antibiotics when they are not going to help leads to antibiotic resistance. You know, colds are not caused by a bacteria. But a lot of doctors still like to give an antibiotic to people that have a cold. I don't know why. I don't know what they're thinking. It does not work because colds are caused by a virus. Maybe it makes the customer or the patient feel the doctor is doing something for me and I feel better. He gave me a medicine that makes me feel better. Sometimes there is a placebo effect. Do something for me and that makes me feel better. And I think doctors sometimes get, well, you know, I don't know what to do for them. I'll give them an antibiotic that'll make them feel better. So bacteria are repeatedly that are repeatedly exposed to antibiotic drugs learn to resist them. They want to survive. They're living substances. They mutate into something else and stronger and more powerful and become super antibiotics. And then when we really need an antibiotic, they're no longer effective. For example, in some areas of the world, E. coli is resistant to almost every drug known to treat it. But the plant oils will kill it off. Plant oils kill antibiotic-resistant bacteria, even shown to kill off MRSA. Oregano oil and thyme oil. Thyme oil has been shown to be effectively inhibit the vancomycin-resistant bacteria, VRE. Eucalyptus oil applied topically without use of antibiotics healed an infected skin wound and eradicated any trace of MRSA. Very, very powerful. And they're natural. There's no side effects. There's nothing to fear with using them. I've seen an individual with a very, very severe skin disease. No one knew what it was. Nobody knew how to treat it. And the woman said, we took oregano oil by capsules and we rubbed the skin with a diluted form, not full strength. Don't ever use full strength oils on your skin. You have to dilute them in almond oil or sesame seed oil or olive oil and then apply them topically as a cream or as an ointment. Has tremendous benefits. We need to know more how to use natural substances to take care of our health than to rely on drugs that are not the answer. The secret to their success, penicillin, one compound. That's all it is. So one compound works on one bacteria, one pathway. So it's much easier for bacteria and viruses to develop a resistance to drugs that are only one compound. All drugs are just one compound. Natural plants have hundreds of compounds, hundreds of molecules all working together like a pharmacy. Versus plant extracts. Plant extracts are more complex, have natural variations. They're not always exactly the same. So like myrtle essential oil, here's just 25 different compounds. I'm not going to read them all. I can't even pronounce them all. But they will give you a tremendous support for the effect of a natural antibiotic. And when you combine more of them together, it even creates a greater pharmacy of compounds. My favorite is thyme, cinnamon. Those two are the most powerful for killing off all forms of bacteria and viruses and fungi. Then you've got clove, oregano oil. What a combination. A few more advantages of essential oils. Antibiotics don't always discriminate between the helpful and the harmful bacteria. They wipe out all of them. It's like using a shotgun. You kill everything off. Essential oils are very selective. They spare the beneficial bacteria while killing off the harmful bacteria, the harmful pathogens. Now this is even better because as you kill off the bad bacteria, that gives the good bacteria a better chance of even growing faster because they are not contending with the bad bacteria. Now you've given them full range to strengthen and grow. Antibiotics have also been found to promote weight gain, which is why 80% of antibiotics are used in livestock. And that's what we eat the livestock, we are getting more antibiotics, right? Double the risk of breast cancer. Wonder why we have an increased risk of breast cancer in America today? Increase of ADHD, asthma, obesity, and diabetes. So if you want to really read more on your immune system, more on antibiotics and the brain-gut connection, here's a great book, Brain Maker. And his first book is called Brain. Both books are excellent. You'll get a tremendous amount of knowledge and information. I like Dr. David Perlmutter. I follow him all the time. I think he has a lot to offer. And he's really given us a lot of good information educationally on health and nutrition. Elderberry, my favorite berry. I don't like eating them. They're not so tasty, and they're really hard to pick. But I love them as a extract. Elderberry is a powerful antiviral. It prevents the viruses from being taken up into the cellular tissue. Elderberry acts against viruses in two ways. Primarily, it neutralizes virus particles so that they cannot enter host cells. It blocks the uptake. Secondarily, it causes the immune system to activate, which can help control the spread of viral infection. Specifically, elderberry has been found effective against influenza A and B, herpes type 1, and HIV. And the bonus is elderberry has also been shown to have some antibacterial activity. So you could add this to the 4 oils that are really my choice. That would be a very, very good combination, or maybe elderberry and combination of vitamin C and zinc or some other things, because they're all immune healthy. We need it, in fact, they're good for our immune system. Elderberry protects air travelers. Here's a new study that was just recently done, just in the last few months. A recent study in Australia found that taking elderberry while traveling, and they found out by taking 312 passengers flying from Australia to overseas destinations, economy class, well, you know, you're trapped there for many hours. And everybody's coughing and sniveling and sneezing, and so, you know, you've got a soup of bacteria on that plane. And this, on the traveling, it cuts the risk of colds and flu in half by 50%. Half received the Hirschberry variety of elderberry that's grown only primarily in Austria, and half received a placebo. All passengers surveyed for cold and flu symptoms before and during and after their flights. The elderberry group had half as many illnesses or cold or flu as the placebo group, and for those in the elderberry group who did get sick, their illnesses lasted only 2/3 as long, shortened the duration and the severity of the flu or cold. as the placebo group, and their symptoms were not as severe. When and how to use elderberry. Elderberry can be taken daily as a preventative to help build up the immune system, to prevent getting something, especially during cold and flu season. 200 milligrams daily or more. If you have an outbreak, you feel like something's coming on, don't be afraid to push that up. So maybe 1,200 milligrams or even more. Don't worry about it. It's safe. It's a fruit. It's not going to cause any side effects whatsoever. The best elderberry I've ever taken is a freeze-dried elderberry. And why is freeze-dried elderberry better? Well, in order to make a powder of the elderberry, what they do is they juice the elderberry. You can drink it. Another good way to take it. It's not easy to find in a elderberry juice. It's not something that is sold commonly in the United States. Very, very popular in Europe, but not popular in the United States. And also, again, manufacturers want you to drink a lot of elderberry juice, so they add sugar to make it taste sweet because elderberry is not sweet. So I would look for an elderberry freeze-dried extract. I like freeze-dried for a couple of reasons. You have to dry the juice. And there are 3 ways to dry the juice. One is drum drying. And drum drying is just like exactly the same. You have a drum dryer in your home. It's called a dryer. That's how you dry your clothes. You put your clothes in the dryer, and it tumbles and tumbles and tumbles until it's dried. So you're getting an even heating system of the clothing. That's the same thing. It's called drum drying elderberry juice. They put the juice in a drum dryer, they roll the drum, and they have heat injected into the drum, and it dries the juice. But the heat destroys a big factor of the juice elements. Then they have a spray drying method. They spray the juice into a small room, and as the juice is sprayed in a mist, it falls to the bottom of the floor of the room, it dries. Now, both methods use heat. Heat destroys nutrients. On the last studies I've seen, they will destroy 35 to 75% of the nutrients of elderberry or any other berry or any other thing they're drying by using drum drying or spray drying. Freeze drying, they take the juice and they put it into trays and they wheel it into a freezer, a huge freezer, like putting in rows and rows and rows of dough to make bread. They put it into an oven. Here they put it into a freezer. The freezer is a vacuum. There's no air. There's no oxygen. And it's 40 degrees below zero. So the water evaporates off the juice, and you end up with a powder. And there are no nutrients, nothing destroyed in the elderberry freeze-dried method. So I would look for a freeze-dried blend with other nutrients such as vitamin A. A is the vitamin that protects us from infection, builds up the immune system. Vitamin C we know is for the immune system. Vitamin D now we know is for the immune system. Zinc, the gland that is the controlling gland of our immune system is the thymus gland. It's right below the little knot you have in your throat. And that gland actually it reduces in size as we get older. And zinc will double the size of the thymus gland, which controls the immune system. So zinc, vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin D, calcium, magnesium, and sometimes adding mixed bioflavonoids from citrus builds our immune system along with elderberry. So this is a good combination, but look for the freeze-dried. That is the best way to take elderberry. Propolis, again, one of my favorites. Propolis is not made by the bees. A lot of people mistake propolis as being from the bees. It's not from the bees. The bees capture it. They collect it from trees and shrubs and buds and other plants, and they use it as their antibiotic because propolis kills off all viruses, bacteria, and fungi. The bees collect it to protect their hive. They collect all these plant compounds, and they bring it into the hive, and they mix it with beeswax and their saliva. They make it into a glue or a putty, and they putty up all the cracks and the crevices of their hive to protect it from foreign invasion. So bacteria or fungi or anything cannot get in and kill off the colony. In fact, even if a mole or a mouse would get into the hive, the bees can't get it out of the hive. They don't have the ability to move such a small animal. Even though it's small, it's too big for them. So they go about and they sting it to death to prevent it from causing any complications in the hive or the colony. And now they still can't remove it, so they mummify it in propolis. So when it decomposes, it doesn't cause any contamination. Propolis is a multi-antimicrobial, kills off everything. Wonderful product to use for any kind of an antibiotic. So here's some modern day uses for propolis. It's a general immune tonic, cold and flu treatment, viral infections, candida and other fungal infections, canker sores, fever blisters, other bacterial infections, gastrointestinal problems, peptic ulcer. So it's equal to or better results than prescription drugs. Here's a very, very good study. Acyclovir is a drug that is commonly prescribed for herpes. Herpes 1 and 2, genital herpes, and also cold sores and fever blisters. Propolis, just using 0.5% propolis of a very special form of propolis called GH2002 versus acyclovir at 5%, 10 times stronger against cold sores and genital herpes. 102 patients received propolis, GH2002, or acyclovir. 80% of the propolis participants had direct healing from the redness stage without experiencing blisters or incrustation. Physicians rated propolis as good or very good in 90% of the cases versus only 40% in the acyclovir group. Propolis was particularly effective for pain relief. You can find it in capsules, you can find it in creams. It's a very, very powerful antibacterial, antiviral compound. Propolis versus drug-resistant microbes. Propolis GH2002 tested against drug-resistant pathogens, MRSA, were highly susceptible to propolis. Very low concentrations, 0.5%, very small. Propolis were very effective at killing antibiotic-resistant microbes as well as fungal pathogens, candida strains. But this is only based on the studies from GH2002. Other propolises are not as purified or clean because the research on GH2002, they removed the waxes, the impurities from the bees. They remove the contents that the bees insert into it to make it a putty or a glue. So it's highly purified, cleansed, and make it into a drug in Europe and in Germany. So topically for cold sores and fever blisters, orally, 100 to 200 milligrams daily for general immune support, for cold and flu, for yeast infection, for GI problems like peptic ulcer, any bacterial, viral, or fungal infection. Final thoughts. Build your immune system. If you need a vaccine, that's between you and your doctor. And I think that's a personal decision. I'm not here to tell you what is best. I'm telling you what you can do to make your body best. Diet, adrenal support, intestinal probiotics, concentrated plant oils. They're antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal. They will not build up your resistance. They get stronger as you use them because the bacteria within our body becomes weaker. Elderberry, freeze-dried, direct antiviral activity, ideal for cold and flu prevention and treatment, plus vitamins and minerals and mixed bioflavonoids. Propolis, topically for cold and flus, fever blisters, orally for immune support or when needed for viral infection, bacterial infection, fungal conditions, works fantastically. And even sometimes when you get nail funguses, you can take some of these oils and use the oils applied directly to the fungus. Be careful. You don't want to do it directly because sometimes it can be too strong. So you do want to at least dilute it a little bit in some kind of a dilutant like olive oil or sesame seed oil or almond oil, but just, maybe like a tablespoon of the oil and maybe like 15 or 20 drops of the plant oils, and mix that and use that, put it in a little bottle and use that as your topical application for funguses. Or you could take a soft gel capsule that already contains like 4 different oils: thyme, oregano oil, cinnamon, and clove oil, and pierce the soft gel with a pin, and then you can squeeze the contents anywhere you want on the body topically because it's already diluted in olive oil. Questions? All right, I guess we're at the time for questions, Cheryl.
Thank you so much, Terry, for that very informative presentation. It was just fantastic, and how timely when we're starting to see flu numbers take off all across America. We do have a couple of questions that have already come in. One has to do with going back to your original discussion about intestinal health and about probiotic bacteria. And this individual would like to know, if you are trying to help your immune system, how many billion colony-forming units, how many billion of bacteria would you recommend for a highly effective probiotic to have?
For the best count, I would be somewhere between 5 billion and 20 billion. I like to use 20 billion, but you don't have to go to the 100 billion, 200 billion. That is all a way to say my product is better than your product because now my numbers are bigger than your numbers. My dog is bigger than your dog. You go to a certain point where it doesn't have any more value. You get to the point of diminishing returns. You don't get any better return on the amount of count. You just have to have somewhere between 5 and 20 billion. And I've seen very, very good studies coming out of Europe in the Scandinavian countries. 10 billion per day. 80 studies on the 10 billion combination was superior. The whole thing about getting higher counts is only trying to make a better sounding product. It doesn't work better. It's not more effective. It just sounds better.
Here's a timely comment from one of our participants who says their experience is that many of the high count products have cheap bacteria that don't implant and die off and don't do their job. So this person sounds like they've had some bad experiences. So it sounds like the strain and the quality of the bacteria is even more important than the overall count, correct?
Well, Cheryl, there are only a very, very, very few bacteria strains that are human strains that have been tested in humans. There's a lot of strains that are thrown in because they're available and they can be manufactured through a process of fermentation. It doesn't mean that we know that they will actually build a home inside our intestinal tract. They may be just there for a show.
All right, good question. Here's a question about children. If you're trying to help keep children well during this cold and flu season, are all these products applicable for children as well as adults?
Yes, absolutely. Now, on the oils, the plant oils, we have to be careful there because those are very, very strong. I would only use the smallest dosage of the plant oils according to whatever package you buy on children over 6 years of age. I would never go below 6. On the probiotics, the baby it can be an infant.
Okay. For IBS, irritable bowel or inflammatory bowel, constipation predominant, should the individual avoid most fruits?
No, I wouldn't avoid most fruits. I would avoid most grains. Grains are the common foods that upset the digestive tract. I would use a good probiotic. And I do have another herb that we haven't talked about today that would really, really help the intestinal tract, and that's boswellia. And there's a very special studied boswellia called Bos Pure. That's a very good form of boswellia that I think has an effect that would be very, very good for the intestinal tract. I'd use boswellia, and I would use a good probiotic.
Sounds like a good combination. Here's another question about dealing with the strains of flu. I don't know if you know the answer to this. This person's asking about the vaccinations. They said last year was so miserable that everybody got vaccinated and they didn't even vaccinate for the right strain. And they're wondering if this year, if you've heard anything about whether it's more accurate.
I have not heard anything this year, but they don't, they have these vaccines made in early summer. They don't know what bacteria, what strain's going to be out in the wintertime. It's a gamble. They're rolling the dice, but they have to get rid of all the supply they made in the summer. So no matter what, you're going to get your flu shot, whether it's good or not, or effective or not. It's up to everybody's decision and personal choices and their doctor's recommendation as to whether or not they're going to get a vaccine. But my feeling, I'd never get a vaccine for the flu. I'd never get a flu shot. I think they're a waste, and I think, and the elderly, actually, that's why they try to, they're old or they're frail, we better get them the flu shot. It's less effective on older people than any. And after 50, 65 years of age, most flu shots are very ineffective.
Here's a question about our furry friends, our pets, our dogs and our cats. They want to know if it's safe to use essential oils. I don't know if they mean on topically or in orally for dogs and cats.
I would give. Of course, I don't like to work with cats. I love cats. I find them to be very, very sensitive to any kind of medication or supplements, and I don't really like to give cats something unless I really have had a good knowledge of the cat. Dogs can tolerate almost anything. They can swallow butcher knives and bolts and screws and everything else. One dog ate 27 stocks. They can eat anything. But I'd only keep it to one soft gel a day of some kind of combination of 4 oils. I would definitely put them on probiotics, and there are some really good pet probiotics out there that you can give to dogs and cats that would be beneficial.
Here's another person who offers a comment and would like to know your response. They have heard that vitamin D can also be very useful for prevention in cold and flu season. Do you have any thoughts on that, and what would the best dose be?
Say that again, Cheryl. I'm sorry, I missed a little bit of that.
They say that they've read that vitamin D as in dog, is very effective for helping to prevent colds and flu, and they want to know if you agree with that and what dosage might be best.
In fact, Dr. Let me see, Dr. Can't think of the gentleman's name right now.
Is it Horlick?
Dr. Hector Holick?
No.
Dr. Holick,
no.
Thank you, Ms. Cheryl.
Yeah.
Dr. Holick and Dr. Hector DeLuca did research on influenza, and they found out that vitamin D3 would prevent about 90% of influenza. And they were looking at the range of 3,000 IU vitamin D per day up to 10,000 IU per day. The Vitamin D Council, based in Omaha, Nebraska, Dr. James Cannell, recommends a minimum of 5,000 IU per day. Several doctors now are up in the 7,000 to 10,000 range. Personally, myself, I alternate. I take 5,000 one day and 10,000 the next day. So I end up about 7,000 per day. Mm-hmm. I think it has a tremendous effect on cold and flu.
All right, good. And we have a question here about adrenal support. Because you had mentioned that at the beginning of the presentation, how important it is to keep your adrenal glands healthy. And they said, what ingredients should they look for in an adrenal support supplement?
Well, to make sure that, because I started off poorly in my younger days. I was grossly overweight, grossly depressed and unhappy and angry and all the things you want to go with, being in an unhealthy diet. I was a sugaraholic. I had very severe hypoglycemia and depression. So my adrenals are pretty much shot. So I have built them up over the years with a correct diet. That means no sugar, no grains, no flour. Cut the carbohydrates down to almost 20 to 40 grams a day. Lots of good proteins, lots of good fats, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds. And then I take a supplement that I like because it has DHEA in it, which is very, very important for producing all the other adrenal hormones and other hormones. Pregnenolone, licorice, Rehmannia, vitamin C, pantothenic acid, vitamin B6, adrenal extract. These are all the nutrients that we could find in research that is required to help strengthen the immune system for better health.
Okay, thank you. Well, I think we made our way through all of the questions. Let me see if I missed any. Oh, I do have to pass this along. Somebody who commented, really appreciated all your time and education to teach us about health and wellness. Thank you so much. So I'd like to add my voice to that. Thank you so much, Terry, and thank you for that very kind comment, folks. And so I do want to point out that this webinar will be available on YouTube. This is a new feature for us. We have always had replays of our webinar that played through the WebEx system, but playing through YouTube makes it ever so much easier, just a click or two, and you can come right back to this webinar and review it at your leisure or share it with your friends if you think there's something in here that they need to hear. Give us a day or two to get it uploaded. It's not going to be up today, but soon this will be uploaded and you will be able to peruse it again. Additionally, for Terry Talks Nutrition, you can sign up for a free weekly newsletter. We are very scrupulous with your emails. They are never sold or shared. It's a weekly newsletter filled with all kinds of natural tips for optimal health. You can listen to recordings of past seminars via that link as well. And there's also a place where you can ask Terry your personal questions. I hope you'll join us again for another Terry Talks Nutrition educational webinar. Some of our next events are Smart Fats, the Coming Revolution in Diet with Dr. Johnny Bowden. That's going to be Wednesday, January 13th at 1 o'clock Central. There's also going to be Dr. Kulreet Chaudhry, Build a Smarter Gut for Spontaneous Weight Loss, again, hearkening back to the importance of the biome in the gut, as you had mentioned earlier, Terry. That's going to be on Tuesday, January 19th at 10 a.m. Central. And how to stop back pain naturally. We're going to have Terry back again talking to us about different natural interventions for individuals who are struggling with back pain, and that's going to be on Tuesday, January 26th. So I want to take this opportunity to thank you, Terry, for joining us today.
My pleasure. It's always nice to be here.
And thank you to everyone for joining us for this Terry Talks Nutrition educational event. Thank you for all that you do to move forward information on natural health. So until we meet again, good health to you. Bye-bye.